Picture this. It's early morning on May 1st, 1945, and Lieutenant Colonel William Crouch is crouched behind a shattered piece of limestone on the southern tip of Okinawa. He's adjusting the straps of something that feels completely foreign against his chest, an 8-pound experimental vest made of fiberglass that smells like chemicals and machine oil. 3 weeks ago, a quartermaster sergeant had looked at this thing and basically called it useless junk, saying it might stop shrapnel, but a rifle round would go straight through. Now Crouch is about to test that theory in the most terrifying way possible. 30 yards ahead through the morning mist, he can see Japanese positions carved deep into the ridge, their firing ports looking like empty black eye sockets staring back at him. He knows there are at least 12 Arisaka rifles aimed right at those approaches, rifles that can drive a bullet through 3 inches of solid pine. Standard Marine doctrine says you suppress the enemy with heavy fire, throw smoke, and flank around. But Crouch signals something completely insane to Gunnery Sergeant Basilone. He's ordering a direct frontal assault. No smoke, no suppression. Just walk straight into their guns and trust 8 pounds of experimental armor to keep your heart beating. Basilone's weathered face shows nothing, but his eyes are screaming the question every Marine is thinking. Are you out of your mind, sir? Crouch stands up and starts walking forward across completely open ground, his boots crunching on pulverized coral. 25 yards to the enemy. 20 yards. His breathing stays controlled, but his left hand is trembling slightly, that involuntary response when your body knows you're walking into aimed rifle fire. 15 yards out, the first muzzle flash erupts from the central firing port, and the sharp crack of the Arisaka splits the air. Crouch feels it, a sledgehammer blow just below his left collarbone that spins him slightly to the right. The bullet fragments against the fiberglass and drops harmlessly into the coral dust at his feet. He keeps walking. 2 more rifles open up simultaneously and the rounds hit his chest plate with metallic pings, their copper jackets shattering against the Doran's surface like bugs hitting a windshield. Behind him, Basilone and the assault team are moving forward in line formation, their own experimental vests absorbing rifle fire that should absolutely be dropping them dead in the dirt. From the Japanese positions comes something Crouch has never heard in 3 years of Pacific combat. Confused shouting, panicked voices calling out in rapid Japanese, underlaid by the frantic clatter of bolt actions cycling faster and faster as enemy soldiers work their rifles desperately, trying to achieve the killing effect they've counted on since Pearl Harbor. 10 yards from the nearest position, Crouch draws his Colt 45 and puts 3 rounds through the firing port. The shouting stops. The Marine assault team reaches the ridge line completely intact, their Doran vests scored with bullet impacts, but their bodies untouched. In the sudden silence, Crouch can hear his own heartbeat thundering against the armor's chest plate. The fiberglass had held, but across the broken landscape of Okinawa, 10,000 more Japanese soldiers are checking their weapons and wondering why their bullets just stopped working. By noon the next day, word of the armor's effectiveness had spread through the Marine divisions like electricity, carried by radiomen and stretcher bearers who had witnessed rifle rounds literally bouncing off their brothers' chests. Private First Class Robert Leckie adjusts the shoulder straps of his newly issued Doran vest as he crouches in a shell crater 300 yards from the Shuri line. The fiberglass plates feel alien against his torso after 3 years of combat with nothing between his ribs and enemy bullets except cotton and prayer. The vest weighs exactly 8 pounds and 4 ounces. He knows because he weighed it twice on the field scale, unable to believe that something so light could deflect rifle fire. The Japanese had built their defensive positions into the limestone ridges with the precision of engineers and the determination of men who expected to die in them. Reinforced concrete bunkers connected by miles of underground tunnels, each position sited to deliver interlocking fields of fire across the approaches. Standard Marine assault doctrine called for massive artillery preparation followed by coordinated advances under covering fire, accepting heavy casualties in exchange for ground. But now Lecky watches Lieutenant Colonel Crouch moving between positions with complete indifference to sniper fire, his vest absorbing impacts that would have killed him yesterday. The psychological shift ripples through both armies like concussion waves from a detonating shell. Japanese soldiers who had counted on their Arisaka rifles since 1937 now watched their most reliable weapon fail against American infantry advancing in the open. Corporal Yamada Hiroshi, positioned in Bunker Complex 7 on the reverse slope of Hill 95, works the bolt of his Type 99 rifle with increasing desperation as he fires round after round at a Marine machine gun team crossing 200 yards of open ground. Each bullet strikes center mass on the gunner's chest. Each bullet fragments harmlessly against fiberglass armor. The gunner never breaks stride. Dr. Clarence Smith moves through the assault zones with his medical bag, expecting to treat the familiar parade of chest wounds and abdominal injuries that define infantry combat in the Pacific. Instead, he finds Marines with bruised ribs and cracked sternums, painful but survivable injuries from high-velocity impacts absorbed by armor plates. The psychological effect on his patients strikes him as just as profound as the physical protection. Marines who had learned to flinch at the sound of rifle fire now advance with the confidence of medieval knights in plate armor. Smith documents 17 cases of severe bruising from direct rifle hits in his first day treating Doran-equipped Marines. Not one penetrating wound to the chest or back. The Japanese response evolves with lethal efficiency. Unable to rely on center mass rifle fire, they begin targeting heads, arms, and legs with surgical precision. Sniper teams equipped with telescopic sights shift from body shots to cranial targets, turning every advance into a calculated gamble between armor protection and exposed flesh. Machine gun crews adjust their fire to sweep below the Marines' chest plates, aiming for femoral arteries and knee joints where no armor exists. The Nambu light machine guns chatter in sustained bursts designed to find the gaps in American protection. Lieutenant Colonel Crouch recognizes the tactical adaptation within hours and adjusts accordingly. Marine squads begin moving in staggered formations that present minimal target profiles while maximizing the protective coverage of their armor. Riflemen learn to advance with their torsos angled toward enemy positions, presenting the armor's maximum surface area to incoming fire. The Doran vest transforms not just individual survival rates, but the fundamental geometry of infantry tactics itself. By May 4th, supply shortages begin revealing the armor's strategic limitation. The experimental production run had yielded fewer than 800 complete vest sets distributed across 2 full divisions engaged in the largest Pacific operation of the war. For every Marine protected by fiberglass armor, 3 others advance with nothing but cotton uniforms and desperate courage. Lecky watches from his protected position as unarmored Marines from the replacement battalion attempt the same frontal assaults that the Doran-equipped veterans execute with impunity. Japanese rifle fire cuts through their ranks like a scythe through wheat. The disparity creates tactical complications that no training manual had anticipated. Armored Marines can advance across open ground that remains absolutely lethal to their unprotected brothers. Mission planning becomes an exercise in resource allocation, determining which objectives justify risking unarmored troops and which require the specialized capabilities of Doran-equipped assault teams. Battalion commanders find themselves rationing their most effective infantry like artillery rounds, holding armored squads in reserve for the most critical objectives. Gunnery Sergeant Basilone leads a mixed assault on the eastern approaches to Shuri Castle, his armored point squad advancing under direct fire, while unprotected Marines provide supporting fire from defilated positions 300 yards behind. The tactical segregation feels wrong to every Marine involved. They had trained as equals, fought as brothers, and died as soldiers regardless of equipment. Now armor creates a two-tier infantry system that divides Marines into those who can walk through rifle fire and those who must crawl through it. The Japanese High Command receives reports of American soldiers surviving direct rifle hits with increasing alarm and disbelief. General Ushijima reviews casualty reports that show declining effectiveness of small arms fire against American infantry, a development that threatens the foundation of his defensive strategy. His staff officers propose increased reliance on artillery and mortar fire, weapons systems capable of delivering explosive force that no personal armor could deflect. The Battle of Okinawa begins its evolution from rifle duel to artillery barrage. As evening shadows stretch across the Shuri line on May 5th, the armor's impact on Marine morale becomes undeniable. Men who had accepted death as the likely outcome of each assault now calculate odds based on equipment rather than luck. The Doran vest transforms the fundamental psychology of infantry combat, replacing fatalism with confidence and desperation with tactical aggression. But somewhere in the limestone caves below Hill 95, Japanese artillery crews are adjusting their firing solutions and preparing to test whether American armor can deflect high explosive shells as effectively as it stops rifle bullets. General Mitsuru Ushijima stands in the command bunker carved 30 feet beneath Shuri Castle, studying casualty reports that defy everything he understands about infantry warfare. His staff officers have compiled data from 17 separate engagements over the past 72 hours, each report describing the same impossible phenomenon. American Marines absorbing direct hits from Arisaka rifles and continuing their advance without falling. The numbers refuse to make sense. 3rd Company, 2nd Battalion reports firing over 400 rounds at a Marine assault team crossing 600 yards of open ground. 0 confirmed kills. Captain Minoru Oda, the general's intelligence officer, spreads reconnaissance photographs across the wooden table, each image showing American soldiers wearing unfamiliar equipment over their standard uniforms. The vests appear thick around the torso with visible plates covering the chest and back areas where rifle fire normally proves lethal. Oda points to magnified sections of the photographs where bullet impacts are visible as white scratches against the dark fabric of the American armor. The evidence forces a conclusion that challenges 30 years of military doctrine. In the forward positions along the Shuri line, Sergeant Kenji Nakamura adjusts the telescopic sight on his Type 97 sniper rifle and settles into position behind a camouflaged firing port. His targets move across the valley floor 400 yards below, a squad of Marines advancing through terrain that should be a killing ground. Nakamura has killed 43 Americans since the invasion began, each shot placed with surgical precision in the center of the enemy's chest. He aligns his crosshairs on the lead Marine's torso and squeezes the trigger with the smooth pressure that has made him the most effective marksman in his regiment. The rifle kicks against his shoulder. The bullet strikes the Marine exactly where aimed. The Marine stumbles slightly and keeps walking. Nakamura works the bolt and fires again, this shot impacting 2 inches to the left of his first round. The Marine's vest shows 2 white scars where copper-jacketed bullets have struck and fragmented. The American continues his advance without breaking stride or seeking cover. Nakamura feels something he has never experienced in combat: the cold certainty of his own obsolescence. The psychological impact spreads through Japanese positions like plague through a crowded city. Soldiers who had built their confidence on the killing power of their rifles now question every fundamental assumption about infantry combat. Machine gun crews adjust their tactics, lowering their aim points to target American legs and arms where no armor protection exists. The change requires new firing techniques and different ammunition expenditure rates. Automatic weapons that had swept entire areas with suppressing fire now focus on precision targeting of exposed extremities. Lieutenant Hiroshi Yamamoto leads a night patrol from the 32nd Army positions, carrying orders to capture an American prisoner for intelligence interrogation regarding the new armor. His 12-man team moves through the limestone caves that connect the Japanese defensive network, emerging 200 yards behind American lines where Marine outposts guard supply routes. The mission requires close-quarters combat where rifle effectiveness should overcome any protective equipment. Yamamoto believes that American armor designed to stop rifle bullets cannot deflect bayonet thrusts or hand grenades detonated at contact distance. The Japanese patrol locates a Marine listening post established in a shell crater near the supply road, 2 Americans manning a radio and maintaining surveillance over the approaches to the main lines. Yamamoto signals his men to surround the position and assault simultaneously with grenades and bayonets. The attack begins at 2 in the morning with coordinated strikes designed to overwhelm the Marines before they can call for support. The first grenades detonate within feet of the American position. Both Marines survive the explosions, their armor absorbing shrapnel fragments that would normally prove lethal. They return fire with submachine guns while calling for artillery support on their radio. Japanese soldiers advance with bayonets fixed, expecting to finish what the grenades started. The Marines meet them with rifle butts and fighting knives, their armor allowing aggressive close-quarters tactics that unprotected infantry cannot risk. Yamamoto watches 3 of his best soldiers fall to Americans who should have died in the initial grenade assault. The armor changes the fundamental dynamics of night fighting, allowing outnumbered Marines to engage in direct combat, where Japanese tactics depend on achieving quick kills through superior numbers. His patrol retreats without capturing prisoners, carrying wounded men and the knowledge that American defensive positions have become significantly more dangerous to assault. Reports from the night engagement reached General Ushijima by dawn on May 7th, confirming his staff's assessment that traditional infantry tactics require immediate revision. Japanese forces begin implementing new battlefield procedures designed to counter American armor advantages. Artillery crews receive orders to increase high-explosive shell allocation for infantry support missions. Mortar teams adjust their targeting priorities to focus on American concentration areas where armor cannot deflect explosive force distributed over wide areas. The 32nd Army's ammunition reserves become a critical factor in the tactical adjustment. Each artillery barrage designed to counter American armor requires significantly more high-explosive shells than the small arms fire that had previously stopped Marine advances. Ushijima calculates that his current ammunition supplies can sustain the increased artillery tempo for approximately 3 weeks before reaching critically low levels. The American armor forces a strategic choice between maintaining defensive firepower and conserving resources for extended operations. Machine gun positions throughout the Shuri line receive new targeting instructions emphasizing precision fire at exposed body parts rather than area suppression of entire units. The Type 96 and Type 99 light machine guns require modified firing techniques to achieve the accuracy needed for effective anti-armor tactics. Gunners who had trained to deliver sustained bursts across wide target areas must now focus on specific anatomical targets at extended ranges. The learning curve costs ammunition and time that Japanese forces cannot afford. By May 14th, the armor shortage becomes a strategic constraint that limits operational planning throughout the Marine divisions. Major assaults require careful allocation of protected troops, while secondary operations must accept higher casualty rates among unarmored Marines. The battlefield mathematics force commanders to calculate human costs in terms of equipment availability rather than tactical requirements or strategic objectives. The disparity creates psychological problems that cascade through every level of military organization. Marines who lack armor watch their protected brothers execute assaults they cannot attempt, creating an equipment-based hierarchy that challenges fundamental Marine traditions of shared sacrifice and equal treatment. The white flag appears above General Ushijima's command bunker at 2 in the afternoon on June 21, 1945, carried by a Japanese officer who walks across ground littered with the debris of 82 days of combat. Lieutenant Colonel Crouch watches the surrender ceremony from a limestone ridge overlooking Shuri Castle, his door and vest still bearing the white scars of bullet impacts from the final assault 3 days earlier. The fiberglass armor that had seemed so experimental on May 1st now feels like standard equipment, its weight distributed across his shoulders as familiar as his rifle sling or ammunition belt. The casualty reports arrive at division headquarters within hours of the Japanese surrender, typed on field forms that quantify the human cost of the longest Pacific campaign. Marines wearing Doran vests suffered 63% fewer penetrating wounds to the torso compared to unprotected troops during equivalent combat exposure. The statistical difference translates to hundreds of Marines who returned home with bruised ribs instead of chest wounds, cracked sternums instead of perforated hearts. Dr. Smith compiles the medical data with the precision of a man who had treated both categories of casualties throughout the battle. The Japanese survivors describe their experience of fighting American soldiers who absorbed direct rifle hits without falling, their accounts documenting the psychological impact of conventional weapons failing against enemy infantry. Sergeant Nakamura, captured during the final assault on Hill 95, explains through interpreters how his sniper rifle had become ineffective against armored Marines, forcing tactical adaptations that exhausted ammunition supplies and exposed Japanese positions to counterfire. The enemy perspective validates American assessments of the armor's battlefield effectiveness. Intelligence officers compile reports on Japanese tactical modifications implemented in response to American armor, documenting the enemy's shift from rifle-based infantry tactics to artillery-heavy defensive strategies. The Japanese had increased their reliance on explosive weapons capable of defeating personal protection through blast effects rather than penetration. The tactical evolution demonstrated how protective technology could force enemy adaptation that revealed new vulnerabilities and opportunities. The experimental nature of the Doran armor program becomes apparent as logistics officers calculate replacement and maintenance requirements for sustained combat operations. The 800 vests distributed across 2 Marine divisions during the Okinawa campaign represented the entire production run of the experimental program. Manufacturing limitations had prevented wider distribution, while combat testing validated design concepts that would influence future armor development for decades to come. Lieutenant Colonel Crouch submits his after-action report to division headquarters documenting the tactical advantages and operational challenges associated with mixed units containing both armored and unarmored Marines. The report recommends universal armor distribution for future operations while acknowledging production limitations that make such distribution impossible during the current war. The tactical lessons learned on Okinawa would influence equipment procurement decisions for the next 50 years. Marine Corps equipment boards review field reports describing the psychological impact of personal armor on both American and enemy forces, noting the confidence boost experienced by protected Marines and the demoralization observed among Japanese troops whose weapons proved ineffective. The psychological effects complemented the physical protection provided by the armor, creating tactical advantages that exceeded the material properties of fiberglass and resin. The human factors proved as significant as the ballistic characteristics. The broader implications of personal armor technology extend beyond immediate tactical applications to fundamental questions about infantry survivability and battlefield effectiveness. The Doran vest demonstrated that protective equipment could alter combat dynamics without requiring revolutionary advances in material science or manufacturing techniques. The innovation represented incremental technological progress with profound tactical consequences. Japanese military analysts writing in prisoner of war camps described the American armor as a decisive factor that undermined traditional defensive strategies based on rifle fire effectiveness. The enemy assessment confirms that personal protection had achieved strategic impact through cumulative tactical advantages rather than dramatic single-engagement victories. The armor's influence operated through sustained battlefield effectiveness rather than spectacular demonstrations. By late June, as Marine units prepare for redeployment to bases throughout the Pacific, the Doran armor has established its value through combat performance rather than laboratory testing. The vests that had seemed experimental and uncertain during the early days of the campaign now represent proven technology that saved lives and enabled tactical innovations. The armor's legacy extends beyond Okinawa to influence military equipment development throughout the entire post-war period and right up to the modern day. The final equipment inspections reveal armor vests bearing multiple bullet scars, each white mark representing a Marine who survived an impact that would have proved lethal without protection. The physical evidence tells the story of technological innovation tested under the most demanding conditions possible. The scars become medals of a different sort, documenting survival rather than heroism, protection rather than destruction. Those 8 pounds of fiberglass armor had changed warfare in ways that no one fully anticipated when the first Marines strapped on their experimental vests and walked into Japanese rifle fire on the morning of May 1st, 1945.